welcome to the CAD 2 Week 3 tutorial. So, to get started, we're going to go to the course, go to course content, and go to Week 3 dimensioning. From here we have the lecture that we're going to go over in person, followed by the part model that we're going to make a drawing for, and the drawing tutorial. So I'm going to download that part model, then go back to Blackboard and open the tutorial. Now we're going to roughly follow this tutorial and make a drawing of the part shown here. So I'm going to move the tutorial over to another screen so I can follow, and then go to SolidWorks, and I'm going to start by opening the downloaded part. So I'll go to Open, Downloads, and there's the part. Okay. As this loads, the first thing I notice is down in the bottom right, this is an inch part. So I want to make sure I grab my inch template. Second thing I want to check is to make sure that my file properties are filled out before we move on to the drawing stage. To do that, I'd go up here to File Properties, and I can see I'm in Custom. I need to go to Summary, and Author and Title are filled out. So that's all set. I can hit OK. Before I make a drawing, you'll notice you probably have this little yellow alert symbol. That's because this is an older model. So before we can make a drawing of it, we have to save it into the new version of SolidWorks. Once that's all done, I'm going to actually start the drawing. So I will go to File, New, and I'm going to select English and B-size drawing down at the end. Double click that. And there it goes. It creates my drawing. Now, according to the tutorial, the first thing we want to do is create our 3 views. Now, I don't like the model tool as much, the model view tool. You can select the model, hit OK, or double click it, not hit OK. And then you have view options here. You can also preview, which will show you what those views look like. But you have to drag them over to see which view is what. My preferred method is, instead of using that, over on the right side we have View Palette. View Palette uses this pull down to select the model that you have open. If you don't have it open, you have to use the 3 dots to browse for it. But once you select that, it gives you a more realistic preview of all your views. Now, in this case, we're actually going to use the 3 principal views, or the 3 standard views, front, top, and right. And those are so common there's actually a button for them. But before we do any of that, if you have the simplified interface, you may want to turn it off so that it matches my drawing view. You would do that by searching for it up here and selecting the toggle box. Now, we're going to look at things with the regular view. We have 2 tabs we're going to use. Drawing, where all of our different views come from, and Annotation, where anything that goes on the views comes from. So in Drawing, we have an option called Standard 3 View, which adds your front, top, and right view, the most common. I'm going to select Standard 3, there's my part, and I'm going to hit OK. And it puts in an appropriately scaled and sized Standard 3 view. Nice, that saves us some time. Next, I'm going to put in the isometric view. So the isometric view is that 3D perspective view. It needs to come from our front view, and it's going to use the projected view tool. So I'll select projected view, click that view, and move up and to the right, and there's my isometric view. I have to place it before I can move it where I want it to go. Okay, we've now created our 3 standard views. The next thing we're going to do is adjust our tangent edges and hidden lines. So tangent edges are off by default, or should be turned off by default in all views, while hidden lines are turned on. The isometric view gets the opposite. So the isometric view is actually perfect as it is. It's got hidden lines off and tangent edges on. But these views need tangent edges off and hidden lines on. To turn tangent edges off, you right-click on a view and go to Tangent Edge, Removed. And the tangent edge option has to be done per view. So again, right-click, tangent edge, removed, right-click, tangent edge, removed. Those are removed. Now we have to do our hidden lines. To do our hidden lines, I'll click on the parent view, and it's over here in display style. The center option is the default. It is hidden lines removed. One option to the left is hidden lines visible. Except you'll notice that that applies to all views, and I don't want it on this view. So I have to go over to my isometric view, go to display style, and uncheck use parent style. I instead want it to use hidden lines removed. Perfect. We've created our views now. So next I'm going to go slightly out of order from the tutorial and do a housekeeping stick standard thing. We like to have our isometric view be set smaller than our regular views, and for it to have a note saying so, that you can't, measure it. So I'm going to click on my isometric view, and over on the left side where it says scale, I'm going to select use custom. It's currently 1/2, so I'm going to make it 1/3. That'll make it smaller. And that looks better. The next thing we usually do is add our isometric view scale none note. Now that can be added by using annotations, note, and typing it in. But it's a very common note, and it would get very tedious to have to add that over and over again. So we actually have it saved as a block. If you go to the Blocks tool in the Annotation tab and select Insert, it'll pull up the Insert Block Manager, and we can browse for a block. Now you can see here mine are open, and they're saved in the Met Templates SolidWorks Blocks folder. The directory on the lab computers doesn't take you right here. You'll have to browse for it. So to do that, you go to Local Disk C, Met Templates, SolidWorks, and Blocks. Once you're there, we can take the ISO view block, and you can see that that's got the nice note already formatted. Then we want to make sure that when we place it on a view, we have that purple highlighted box showing that it's actually attached to that view. If we don't see that purple box, then the view or the note won't go with the view when we move it. Okay. Last thing that's not on the original tutorial is the revision table. This is something that's on every drawing and needs to be filled out. To fill it out, we just double click in and we just type in your initials and the date, and they should be in all caps because everything in a drawing is all capital. 2/4/26. Perfect. Okay. Back to the tutorial. The next step is to add center marks. So center marks go anywhere we can see a circular feature, and center lines go anywhere we see that feature as a line. So I'm going to use a center mark and place it here. And that gives me a mark that shows me that that hole is circular. Then I'm going to go to center line, and here I need to place a center line to show the hole goes through here. The problem here is that it didn't place automatically. If you click on a view, it'll usually place center lines automatically, but when it doesn't work, we just go through and pick the two hidden lines to create them. Now we don't place one here because there's a visible edge of the part in the middle where the hidden line would go, and that visible edge takes priority. So we're not going to place that there. So next up is to dimension the part, and we're going to dimension the part manually. And again, the rule is that you need as many dimensions as possible to make the part and none extra. So the minimum number needed and nothing extra. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to follow the order on the print and add dimensions. So I'm going to go to Smart Dimension and start by placing a dimension here. I'm going to place that roughly in the middle, but then I'm going to use this quick pop-up and the second option at the bottom to actually lock it into center. That just looks nicer. I actually don't like how close this is to the wall, so I'm going to hit Escape and move this whole thing over a little bit to give me some more room. Adjust that, and I've got my first little graphic bug where the edge of the part's still there. I can try to hit rebuild and sometimes it'll go away. If it doesn't, save the file, close it, and reopen it. SolidWorks just does that sometimes. Alright, back to Smart Dimension. Next dimension's the width at the bottom. Again, place it roughly in the middle. Pop up, centered. Then I've got a 5-inch dimension over here. which goes from there to here, roughly in the middle, pop up, centered. Okay. Then we're going to dimension to this hole. So when you dimension to a center mark, you have to select the center mark as one of your dimensioning options. Otherwise, it will not leave the automatic gapping to your center mark. These are a little close now, so I'm going to move these out a little bit. All right, back to Smart Dimension. Left to the center mark. That goes here. Centered. And dimension the hole itself, so I'll click the hole, move that up, put that there. Now you'll notice the tutorial has the word through, and that's because they actually use the hole callout tool. When you have holes in a part, you have two ways to dimension it. You can dimension it manually, and then add anything you need to the callout, or in annotations, there's a hole callout button. If we select that, we can select a hole, and it will try to identify what the geometry is. This will pick up any hole wizard callouts that you use, so it's pretty convenient. Okay. Moving down, we're going to add some more dimensions to the front view, so I'll go back to Smart Dimension. We're going to do the radius here, and we're going to try to position that about there. You can see you get a lot of different display options. We want the one that takes the least space, so we're going to put it there. We'll then do the 3-inch dimension here. Again, I'll center that. And the 3-inch dimension here. And I'll center that. Okay. Moving on, we have the dimensions for this top bit up here. So we're going to do that next. So those can go here, where we have from here to here a 2-inch dimension. Centered. From here to here, oh, I missed, so I'm just going to delete that and select again from there to there a 2.5 dimension. And again, these are a little too close, so I'm going to move this out. That way I have room for this dimension. And a 5.5-inch dimension from here to here. Perfect. Okay. Scrolling down, you can see what else I need. I need the radius dimension here. So I will select that, move that up. Now, I don't actually like that this leader is pointing to the left side. I want to flip it around. So to flip it, you have to pick on the dimension, and then click that little dot at the end of the arrow, and that flips it. And that looks better. Now, this radius is actually in two places, and we don't want to put the dimension down twice. So we're going to add a 2 times symbol to indicate the number of places that dimension is used. To do that, we're just going to click on the dimension. On the left side in dimension text, I'm going to click before the radius, and in capital, go 2x space. So that means that that radius 1-inch dimension applies in 2 places. Next, we have to dimension the slot on the right view. So I'm going to move over to the right view, and we've got 3 dimensions here. We've got the height from here to here, which is 750, and I will center that. We've got the width from here to here, which is 1.5, centered, and the width from here to here, which is 1.25. Now, these are too close to overlap, so we'll have to stagger them a little bit. And we'll just tweak the spacing until it looks pretty. Now, it's important to make sure that we're being careful of our selection and leaving these gaps here. Again, extension line gaps are very important, so we want to make sure we're picking things that give us proper gapping. If not, we have to adjust it and fix that. Okay, with that, this drawing should be just about good. We'll zoom out or press the F key to fit it, and we can compare it to the last page of the tutorial to see if our drawings match. If they do, we can go ahead and save it. And then remember to save as a PDF for submittal, and submit only a PDF. I know the name's going to be matching the name of the default file you were given. That's okay, but make sure you're saving it as a PDF. All right, and that's the week 3 tutorial.